Welcome back to another episode of Tales After Dark. This is a podcast filled with scary stories, and we will be diving deep into the world's most treacherous cult crimes. Many of the paranormal and creepy stories heard here are from articles that I have found on Reddit. Article information will always be included in the show notes below each episode. To submit a terrifying tale of your own, please email stories.talesafterdark@gmail.com. And make sure to follow TAD Podcast along on Reddit. Paranormal investigations and spooky adventures will soon be coming to the Tales After Dark YouTube channel. You can find those videos and all podcast episodes there, so don't forget to subscribe. The show is brought to you by the MW Network and produced by me, your host, Emma Dawn. Tales After Dark is made possible by our sponsors. The Home Bookkeeper Masterclass. The paranormal isn't my full-time gig. Outside of podcasting, I am a home bookkeeper. Check out how I was able to ditch my 9-to-5 grind and spend more time creating and doing all the spooky things I love by becoming a home bookkeeper. More information on my Home Bookkeeper Masterclass can be found on my company website, edjconsultinggroup.com, under Resources. Zaya Active. What's better than curling up in a nice pair of leggings and your Tales After Dark sweatshirt and listening to a spooky tale? In my completely biased opinion, not much. Visit myzaya.com/Emmadon for premium and affordable men's, women's, and youth active and loungewear. And make sure to check out the Tales After Dark merch store on teespring.com. Do you like to sip while you listen? Then sip with purpose by choosing One Hope Wines. One Hope is a Napa Valley wine company that has given back over $5 million to nonprofits. So put your wine to work by shopping One Hope at onehopewine.com/myshop/mommywines. All sponsor links are always included in the show notes. Don't forget to check them out, but most importantly and simply subscribe to the show, leave a rating and review, and share Tales After Dark with your friends. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tales After Dark. I am your host, as always, Emma Dawn, and with me is my golden doodle, Zeppelin. She is my comfort and recording partner when I am getting deep into these really spooky stories. So this is the first time I am going back to using my actual podcast microphone. I don't know why I haven't done this sooner, but I have been toying with a lot of the different audios for my podcast here, Tales After Dark, and for Mommy Wines. And with all the virtual recordings and doing everything remotely, I have kind of put my podcast microphone to the back burner. But I'm going to be starting to record these episodes with my Blue Yeti microphone. The quality is just so much better. And I will be leaving links to all of my podcasting equipment in the show notes below. I am actually starting up a new series here on this podcast, and it's one that you guys have been asking for a lot since I released the trailer for this podcast. So let's go ahead and get into that. Rogues Hollow already sounds like a scary place, but then you add in the legends and tales of headless horsemen, ghost trains, outlaws like Jesse James, witches, coal miners crossing the road decades post-mine operation, buildings repeatedly burning down to the ground, a baby crying under a bridge, and so many more. The eerie-sounding name seems to be quite suited. Within a 100-year period from the 1820s to the 1920s, Rogues Hollow was known to be one of the meanest places in the United States. This outlying coal town offered 7 saloons and acres of hiding spots for the country's most violent criminals and outlaws on the lam. Adding to the sudden deaths of the few that resided there. Since starting this podcast, I have been asked a lot in emails and on Reddit if I would be telling the stories of my hometown. What it was like growing up in a paranormal playground filled with centuries of less than reputable history. The answer you've been waiting for is yes. In this Rogues Hollow series, I will be sharing all of the tales of my hometown, Rogues Hollow, Ohio. The first story I'm going to be sharing with you is a legend called Crybaby Bridge. The story of Crybaby Bridge is probably one of the most famous tales of Rogues Hollow. This is due to the tale being less of a legend and more of a true story. I remember growing up hearing rumors of Boy Scout troops leaving their camp night early when attempting to sleep outdoors in the hollow. This is a very rural area, miles from any major city or even the closest town, barely any streetlights, and surrounded by farmers' fields, since no one wanted to live there. Growing up, we used to drive through the hollow to get to my grandparents' house. It was the fastest connection between the village of Clinton, where I lived, and present-day Doylestown, where my grandparents and pretty much the rest of my family lived. Riding in the back seat of the car, I remember pressing my face against the chilled window, looking out hoping to see something spooky. The ghost stories and legends of the area weren't a secret. So even though my mother often refused, regardless of how much I begged, to tell me the stories herself, it wasn't hard to get another townsman to spill the beans, especially after they'd been drinking at the Top Cat Lounge and stepped outside for a smoke. The story of Crybaby Bridge goes like this. In the early 1920s, a prestigious family was coming to visit the area. They were coming down the steep, winding road nicknamed Dead Man's Curve that would eventually cross over what is now Crybaby Bridge. It was slick, dark, and cold as winter was fast approaching in the hollow. The car slid on ice and crashed over the bridge, plummeting into the freezing water below. The mother, father, and driver searched for the baby, but its cries echoed through the hollow. They couldn't find the baby until the echoing cries suddenly stopped, and the mother, father, and driver were rescued by the mill keeper. The entire area is now fenced off and closed. Dead Man's Curve is no longer a functioning road. The mill hasn't been operational in years, maybe even before my time. And the bridge is completely gated and deadbolted. No one is to drive over the bridge. Some only tell the story of hearing the baby cry, but the hauntings are far more if you are sensitive to the paranormal. The mother and father have been seen looking out of the mill windows, heartbroken over the loss of their baby. The crash has been heard on nights of slick road conditions. Even the mill keeper who rescued the family has been noticed lurking around in the area, and the sounds of the mill running lightly caress the air on windy nights. If you like this story and want to hear more tales of Rogues Hollow, make sure to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Feel free to follow along on Reddit at u/TAD podcast. And as always, make sure to leave a rating and review. New episodes go live every Tuesday and Thursday. So until next time, stay spooky.